Hey, drill press. Gonna do it. Let's take a look at this thing. Power button, stop button. We got a light. You can see what we're doing. We got a laser so we can figure out where that drill bit's gonna hit. And what else we got? We got this guard. We're gonna need to move this out of the way when we go to change a bit. And we'll show you that example in a little bit. This is called a chuck right here. And it requires a chuck key right here. So we go in there to be able to get the bits out and make sure that they're tight in there right now. We're good to go with our chuck key. Goes in our chuck. And this is a 3-jaw chuck. There's 3 jaws on it. You're grabbing that bit. A lot of times when we grab it, you want to make sure sometimes people grab it and they only get 2 on there and then the bit starts wobbling. So we want to make sure that when I spin it by hand, and anytime I try to change the drill bit to make sure that I got it right in the middle and it's not caught between 2 of those jaws. We got our clamp, so this is going to help us hold pieces down, right? If we need to, we've got our adjustments, height adjustment right here. So we can go up and down depending on the thickness of the board. And usually I want it a little bit higher so I don't have to pull down as far. When I drill, I'm grabbing this handle. A lot of times I need to grab it over here. Right here, if you come take a look, right here, there's a little gauge right here. So if you were drilling a couple holes, you want them all to be the same depth, you could pull it down and say, hey, I got to the 3, or I can adjust this too. So I can set a stop on it. So then you can have consistent holes depth on there as well. I call this a bit. This is a drill bit, drill bits. This is a 4-shear bit. These are different bits right here. We've got some spade bits right here. We'll be cutting with one of those a little bit later. And these are just standard twist drill bits. Notice they're organized by size. So that's kind of nice, isn't that? You could put them back there when you're done using them. All right, so let's drill a hole. When we drill a hole, we want to prepare it first. So number 1, I got to know where I'm drilling a hole. So I typically put like an X, okay? I'm going to drill a hole right there. Then the second thing we need, and sometimes I do this with a hammer and a nail or screw, but I want a center punch, we call it, okay? So notice I just put a little indent in there. And I'm doing that because drill bits actually don't have a point on them. If we look at the top of this one, you can see it's kind of flat on top of it, right? And so what it can do is that as I'm starting to drill, if I didn't have a center punch on it, it can grab one of those edge of the blades and then it'll move a little bit, right? We want it to drill right there, and therefore we're going to center punch it to make sure the drill bit stays in there and it'll drop into that hole already. So we center punch first. This is important with wood, but if you're going to drill a hole in metal, it's super important. You really can't drill a hole without center punching first. So I'm going to get my laser on so I can see where that is. I'm going to clamp this board down. I'm going to go ahead and get my board set up. Get it right there. That looks pretty good. Clamp it down. Get our guard covered up. And then fire it up. And I like to hold on to the workpiece a little bit too as I'm drilling. So I like to drill and do a little bit at a time so I clear the chips out as I go, and I can tell I got to a different hole. So we got it all the way through. Let's see how we did. Take my clamp off, and we're good to go. Okay, so we center punch first. Let's take a look at this one real quick. We're going to change the bit. So I grab my chuck key, put it in the chuck, open that up. I can turn it, after I get it loose, I can turn it by hand. Let's go ahead and put our drill bit back where it goes by size. That's nice. And then we grab this one. This is a spade bit, so we're going to be drilling a bigger hole. There's something special about these when I do it. Okay. Oh, I was going the wrong way. My bad. It's embarrassing. I did it on video. So I'm going to clamp this down, and I'm going to do it incorrectly. Notice I got it caught between 2 of those teeth, right? So it's wobbling around in there. Let's get that in the center and then clamp it down. So once I verify that it's centered, I'm going to grab my chuck key and put that in. So just make sure you keep that right there so that we don't lose it. All right, so I should center punch this But since I'm using a spade bit, I'm not too worried about it on this one. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this incorrectly. I gotta go right here. I'm gonna put it over this slot right here. I'm gonna clamp it down right there. This is incorrectly. So, didn't look too bad, right? But when we look at the other side, it kind of tore up the back side of that. So when we're using a spade bit, especially if we don't have something backing it up, what we can do is drill most of the way through the hole and then flip it over. So we'll go on this. And I can see that my bit went through. Now I can flip it over. I know where my middle is, and I'll be able to drop that right in there. And I'm actually going to do this one without the clamp, because then it'll drop in there a little bit better for me. So, anytime I'm using a spade bit, I like to go in on both sides rather than have it blow out the back end of it. Okay? So, other things that I think about on the drill press is if I have a bigger piece, I want to think about what's going to happen. Back up. What's going to happen if this board gets caught in here? Right now, this is spinning clockwise when I turn it on. And so if the board gets caught, it's going to swing and hit me, right? So that's a bad setup. I want to set up this way and clamp it down so that if it does get caught, it swings and hits the post and we're good. A lot of times I'll clamp it with it touching the post so that it's not going to spin at all. There's no way, right? So think about your setup when you got bigger pieces so that you don't have a spinning piece. If a board gets caught in here, it's spinning. The number one injury that people get is that they reach in and try and stop it, hit their hand, get a bruise, right? Or they didn't clamp down, they didn't hold the board, and it caught in there, swung around and hit them. So clamp your boards down, have a good firm grip on it, and you won't have to worry about those kind of things. Let's take a look at this test real quick. So quickly through these, safety glasses are not necessary. False. Keep them on. Safety glasses all the time. Is it acceptable to wear loose clothing and jewelry? We talked about this on another one, but if I had some clothes hanging off, I've got long hair, anything that gets caught in there, it's going to wrap up super quickly. We can see how fast this thing's spinning. If we look up here, I've got it. Boom, boom. And so A2, we are at, where are you, A2? 1,500 RPMs, so 1,500 revolutions per minute. That's spinning 1,500 times in 1 minute. So it's spinning pretty fast. It's going to yank you in there and pull on it if you got any loose clothes or anything. I like tuck in clothes, long sleeves, roll them up, any necklaces, tuck them in, and any of that kind of stuff. So take care of it. It's safe to remove the chuck key from the drill press before starting the machine. Yes, I did that. Make sure you don't leave it in there. Some people have left the chuck key in here. They turn on the machine and just tosses it across the room. So make sure that we are using that chuck key and taking it out. Clamping projects securely in place is important to prevent from spinning and moving while drilling. That's true. Using excessive force or pressure will result in quicker, more efficient. It will go faster, but you're going to tear up the holes. It's not going to leave a clean hole. So just pay attention to the pressure that you put on there and don't push too hard. It's okay to reach around removing parts. Now, when we don't want to make a bunch of adjustments when we're drilling, all we're doing is there. If we need to make an adjustment, turn it off, let it come to a stop, and then make your adjustments. Is it okay to use have random scraps on the table? No. We want to clear workspace as we're working. Long hair is a safety concern. True. The most common injury from the drill press is bruises. Yes. So make sure and clamp down your projects, hold them down. What should you do before you drill a hole using the drill press? A couple things. Number one, we center punch. Remember, we used a spade bit on that one. If I have a bunch of holes, I get a hammer and nail, center punch them all. We mark that center. Adjust the height of the table if needed, right here. If you need to go up or down, and then clamp your project down. Okay, so use that clamp. What kind of grip should you use? A firm and secure grip to maintain control while feeding the bit into the workpiece. Then, okay, last one. Why should the drill press be adjusted to the correct height? And it helps align the drill bit. The longer this gets extended out, it's going to move more, and we'll be able to drill more precise holes if we have a smaller gap here. So make sure adjust correctly. Good luck.